we're at that point in the cycle where people are pointing fingers at sim heads, in quotation marks. They're complaining about the gameplay, the state of the gameplay, the direction of the gameplay in the franchise, the last few years and going into NBA 2K24. And somehow this bad gameplay, it's the sim heads' fault. That is a myth. There's not that many sim heads that play this game. What percentage of the player base in 2K do you think would be considered a sim head? What percentage out of 100? Because I can tell you right now, if I go and play on a random gamer tag, a gamer tag that is not famous, and I go to the park or I go to the rec center, I go play online, am I gonna see sim basketball being played, or am I gonna see a bunch of cheese? So when you're complaining about the state of the gameplay, you have to understand the reason that the game plays this way is because of how you complain about the game. Sim players are in the minority. There's not that many of them. They don't have any influence. When they complain about the game, they don't listen to them. When a sim player complains about the game, it sounds something like this. When I lock up this pick and roll and I finally get that good animation to slip over on the other side, he shouldn't be able to then turbo away from me, run into the corner, and hit a fading three, green a fading three without takeover. He shouldn't be able to bail himself out like that. Now, there's not a lot of people that complain to 2K about that. Instead, this is what people complain to 2K about. They say something like this: I can't make shots. I got a 93 ball. I'm wide open. I can't make a shot. I looked at my player card. I'm only shooting 55% from the 3-point line. I need to be shooting at least 70% from three. I'm changing my release every week. They keep patching my shot. I gotta go make a new shot every week. So when 2K sees the 5 complaints from sim players complaining about the guys bailing themselves out at the end of the shot clock when they got locked up, hitting a fading three, greening the fading three, after zigzagging the whole 24 seconds, they just ignore that because they're getting flooded with 1,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, a million Brazilian, a billionaire, a trillionaire. They see people complaining about they can't hit a shot with a 93. What do you think 2K is gonna do? They're gonna make it easier to shoot. And that's why people can fade consistently and make shots from three. They can build an offensive strategy around that tactic. It works. And because the fade works, now we have a problem on defense, because you have to potentially be ready to guard this fade, but they could also just go right around you and go to the basket. So on defense, you can't guard both. So you kind of got to guess, what do you want to do on this possession? Do you want to try to go for that fade? Do you think he's going to fade, or do you think he's going to go to the basket? Should I back off a little bit? You're guessing. Instead of reacting, you just guess. In 2K games, it's been like this forever. The offensive player always has an advantage. They always have a speed advantage. On offense, there are a million different ways that you can go from a standstill to flying 100 miles an hour in any direction. There are so many moves. There's step back moves. There's literally a standstill move, just hold turbo and go diagonal and you're speeding. There's just so many ways to speed up your player on offense. On defense, there is no way to speed yourself up. So if you're guarding somebody and in the back of their mind, they're thinking that they got by you, they've already gotten by you. They didn't even make their move yet and they've already gotten by you. And it's funny because you can even guess the direction that somebody's gonna go in, and you can even get a collision. You can trigger a collision, but then after the collision, it's possible for the offensive player to get a speed boost and go in the other direction to bounce off of the collision and then speed boost for a layup or a dunk. So when people are complaining about the game, I never see people complaining saying, hey, on defense, we need to be able to go faster. We need to be able to move laterally. That guy didn't really do anything, but he got by me. Why can't I just take a simple step over here and collide with him? I never hear anybody complaining saying, hey, you need to calm down this speed boosting. There's too many ways that you can just go from 0 to 100 before I can blink an eye. I never hear people complaining about that, but I hear people saying, I can't speed boost. I can't momentum. I can't momentum. I can't link the momentum with this. The dribbling sucks. Get rid of these adrenaline bars. Now, here's the funny thing about the adrenaline bars. When they were first announced, all of the sim heads in quotations, in the back of their mind, they knew that this was not a solution because you still had 3 bars every possession, which means you get 3 chances every possession to activate one. And you only need to activate one, and that's it, you're gone. So the first 2 times that you tried to activate, knowing that offensive players are faster and defensive players kind of got a guess, a defensive player could have locked you up twice, guessed which way you were activating twice. Remember, online, there's lag and latency that also helps this situation. But then you still had that 1 bar left. You pulled it back one more time, and then you launched, and you were out of there. You slipped by. He could have even bumped you, and you slipped by. You blew by. Maybe your clamp breaker activated, and you blew by. Now, this is going to make a lot of people mad because all of this stuff is documented. People came out and complained about the adrenaline system. It's in videos everywhere. And there's only a handful of people that all year never complained about the adrenaline system. There's only a few dribblers, real elite dribblers, that were not affected at all by the adrenaline system. They never complained about it. All the other people complain about adrenaline system. Maybe they're going to private their videos. They don't want you to go back and be like, look, this guy was complaining about the adrenaline. He couldn't dribble. There were only a very select few that never did, and they were still moving. They were moving unaffected by adrenaline. They didn't even use adrenaline. Now, how is that possible, guys? You have been exposed. You are not the elite dribbler you think you are. You were complaining about adrenaline, and they were moving without adrenaline. They were unaffected. Explain yourself. You can't hide. The videos are there. We've seen it. I synced it. And I remember at one point in the year, 2K patched the left-right. Woo! The uproar was crazy. For about a week, it was nonstop complaining, and 2K reverted that patch back with the quickness. And once again, those elite dribblers, they were not affected during that whole time. It didn't bother them, but it bothered you, and you can't hide that fact. But what is sim? What does it mean when somebody says sim basketball or sim head? Yes, it does mean realistic, more realistic. We are playing a video game. It doesn't mean that you can't do video game things, but we are playing basketball, and basketball has certain strategies and tactics, and there's supposed to be ways to counter strategies that make sense from a basketball standpoint. It doesn't mean that you can't do flashy dunks or dribbles. To keep it as simple as possible, sim is really about variety in gameplay. There are so many animations available in the game. There are so many different ways to attack and different strategies and different things that you can do on the court in this game with all of these virtual players. But you never get to see those things. You get to see maybe about 5 different moves every game, when really you should be seeing about 35 different moves a game. And if you play for an hour or 2 hours, every game you should see something you didn't see in the last game. But what ends up happening in 2K is that people do the same thing the entire game. So you could play a rec center game, which is 5v5. You get all excited. You're like, yo, we're about to play some team basketball. We could run some plays, some pick and rolls and pick and pops. We can run some off-ball screens, some double down screens. We can have some post action happen every once in a while. We could have some backdoor cuts, some passes. We could pass from not just the middle of the court, from the main ball handler. You're thinking about how you can run plays, and then you get online, and every game against the team, there is a zone defense. So what does that mean? That means you can't do any of that stuff. You can't run any plays because you got guys standing in a specific spot the whole game. They have this designated spot, and every possession, their player goes to that exact pixel and stands right there. On offense, it's the same thing. It's a 5-out offense. You've got designated guys that just stand in the same spot. They just wait until somebody goes to help because it's a one-on-one. They're going to do the whole thing with the offense and the speed advantage that the offense has. So if somebody helps, then they'll make a pass. The guy's standing on that pixel, the same pixel he was standing on for the whole game. He's going to shoot the three. Hey, maybe that guy will cut every once in a while from the corner. Yeah, maybe this team will run a pick and roll instead of the one-on-one 5-out, but it's still a 5-out. It's a pick and roll every time. Yeah, maybe, okay. Like I said, there's going to be about 5 moves that you see when you should be seeing at least 35 different moves every game. Does everybody remember the Curry slide? Wow, that was a crazy year. Every dribble combo ended with a Curry slide. It was abused and used so much that the next year, 2K took the Curry slide out of the game. It was no longer in the store. You couldn't even buy the animation for your player. Now, the funny thing is, the cheesers, this is hilarious. They found out a way to still get the Curry slide. They made a new build and somehow they glitched the build, and then the build had access to the Curry slide. And I remember we were in a game, we were playing in a rec, and I saw somebody do a Curry slide, and I was like, wait, what? How did he do a Curry slide? So because you guys don't complain about the right things, 2K doesn't know how to fix this. The only way to fix this problem, this variety problem, this cheesing problem, is to improve the defense. Nobody cares that you want to dribble out the clock for 24 seconds, trying to be fancy, trying to be an elite dribbler. Like I said, there's only a few guys all year that didn't complain about the adrenaline, and those were the only true elite dribblers. There's not that many of them. We don't care that you're dribbling like crazy. We care that when you make a mistake, oh yes, and a lot of you are making hella mistakes, when you put that ball right in front of us, we can't steal the ball. So in the Curry slide year, it was used and abused so much, you knew when somebody was going to do it. So what does a smart person do? What does a basketball mind do? They say, you know what I'm going to do? When he does the Curry slide, I'm going to be on the other side of the Curry slide. I'm going to be on this hand. So when he does it, and then he puts the ball right there, I'm going to steal it. That's the logical way to stop that move and many other moves. When people are spinning, they're doing it in and out, whatever it is, if they place that ball right in front of you and you're standing there, you should be able to steal it. You anticipated the move, you got there before they did the move, and then they were dumb enough to do the move and land right there. When you reach in, you should be able to get the steal. But what happens? You can't steal the Curry slide. You can't steal all these moves. 2K doesn't need to eliminate the Curry slide. You just need to be able to steal the Curry slide. The current steal system in the game is very weird. It doesn't make sense from a basketball standpoint. A lot of moves, you have to steal it right before they activate the move. You can't steal it at the end of the move or mid-move, and that's a problem. So even when these dribblers make mistakes, you can't steal the ball. But I don't hear anybody talking about this. I've never heard anybody complain that you can't steal the ball when people make a mistake. But then Nobody has a problem about all these crossbody steals where you're trying to protect the ball. You have the ball in the opposite hand on the opposite body side, but they can still steal it from across your body with an animation. But when somebody dribbles right in front of you, maybe even bumps into you, you get a collision, baby. Now you can't steal it. You might even get a reach-in foul. The only way to get variety is to have the counter to the variety. The defense has to improve. Same thing with the zone defense in the rec center. Zone defenses have weaknesses, but in 2K, there is no weakness. You're all up in the passing lane. Either the court is too small, the players are too big, something's not right with the passing, the angles. That's not what happens in basketball. So that's why people sit in the zone, because there's no weakness. When you play zone, another weakness is supposed to be rebounding. There's no rebounding weakness. People are leaking out, cherry picking. They get the rebound, they throw it down the court. The people up top in the zone, they immediately release. Nobody is complaining about this stuff. So they're not gonna fix the court size or whatever it is. Passing lanes, they're not gonna fix the stealing. So people are gonna be able to wildly dribble with no consequence. And that's why it's funny that people complain and try to blame sim players, sim heads, for why they don't like the gameplay. But the gameplay is the way it is because you complain to make it that way. If you don't like how the gameplay is going, you don't like the direction, then you need to change the direction of your complaints. It needs to be the majority. They're gonna listen to the majority of the complaints and they're gonna do what they say. And there's no way that sim heads are in the majority. And it's funny because at the start of 2K, they usually do try to throw a bone to the sim head, so to speak. They try to put in something to please them, but you know it's only gonna last for about a week. They're gonna get rid of it soon. So that first week of gameplay is always very interesting. And I remember one year, the game came out and the defense was so vicious that people were making memes. They were making in real life memes of people playing basketball, getting punched, tackled, boxing, MMA, wrestling moves, because that's how fierce the defense was. 2K threw a bone, but then you know after a few weeks they're gonna patch it right back because the complainers are gonna be complaining and they're gonna listen to the majority. So if you don't like the gameplay, don't look at the sim heads. Don't get mad at them. They didn't do anything. Be careful what you wish for. You know that saying. You're getting what you wished for. The majority is making the game get tweaked in these ways, and it's not those evil sim heads that are ruining the game for you. And the funniest thing about all of this is that through the years, I've never seen players get tired in 2K when you're playing online. Do you ever see somebody with a Gatorade symbol? People are running all over the court, fading threes, zigzagging, dunking all game, and they never get tired. And 2K has all of these badges in the game that even if you do get tired, they help you score when you get tired. It's crazy. Like, stamina really doesn't matter that much. So these sim players that you keep complaining about, if they actually had influence on the game, you would see Gatorade symbols out there. You would see people getting tired. I played so many games online in the rec and the park this year, and I don't think I ever saw somebody get tired. Maybe if I did, it might have been like 1 or 2 times out of all the games, and people are holding down turbo the whole game, and I haven't seen the Gatorade symbols. My songs, He Quit the Game, Lob City, and My Camo are now available on all streaming platforms. And the Denver Nuggets, the champs, didn't make the playoffs in the West. Hop step, get that cheese out of here. What a block. Got a highlight already. If I pass you this ball, you gotta shoot. Look at that. How do you not let that fly, baby?